I'm Rachel Schakowsky. I'm the Elementary School and Early Childhood Curriculum Coordinator.
I'm Sue Stevens. I teach literature in 7th grade and I'm the MAP coordinator for the school.
We're here to talk about MAP testing results and how your child is doing in school and provide you with more information of what are the next steps and how can you help. Please view this video about Common Core standards and how it ties to what we're assessing.
Like it or not, life is full of measuring sticks. How smart we are, how fast we are, how well we can, compete. But up until now, it's been pretty hard to tell how well kids are competing in school and how well they're going to do when they get out of school. We like to think that our education system does that. But when it comes to learning what they really need to be successful after graduation, is a girl in your neighborhood being taught as much as her friend over in the next one? Is a graduating senior in, say, St. Louis as prepared to get a job as the graduate in Shanghai? Well, it turns out the answer to both of these questions is no. Because for years, states have been setting different standards for what students should know and be able to do at each grade level. That's making it too hard to know if our kids are really doing well enough overall, and if they can really compete for a job someday. What we really need are clear goals. That's where the Common Core state standards come in. They're like a total sea change in education. Consistent, strong, clear benchmarks for English language arts and math. Here's how it works. You can think of kindergarten through 12th grade like a giant staircase. Each step is a skill your child needs to learn before stepping up to the next one. But right now, too many kids aren't really confident with like 2 plus 2 before they have to move on to 2 times 2. We need more focus on the skills that help them move up the stairs, or they can slip up and fall behind. And there's another problem. What if everyone's stairs were made at different heights? Well, here we go again. They are. So, a boy in Seattle who's rocking an A in English literature could be getting a C on his Chicago friend's staircase. Oops. We need to create consistent steps in education too. So first, each standard creates a landing on the staircase, a stop along the way as your child heads toward high school graduation. Each stop is a chance for every parent and teacher to focus on the skills their students are supposed to know at that step, no matter the zip code, language, or race. And more importantly, each standard makes sure all students are learning what they need to know to get to graduation and beyond. Because something like counting to 100 leads to understanding dollars and cents, which eventually leads to understanding how to manage a budget. Secondly, the standards are consistent from school to school, and they match up against international standards too. Now we know how we're doing compared to just about everyone. So even though local communities will still design their own curriculum with the same rules, everybody can compete on the same kind of staircase. But standards aren't learning. That's why we need teachers, parents, and students to help make that happen by working together to help kids meet these standards. The world's getting more and more competitive every day. But now, when our kids get to the top of their staircase, they can have way more options on where their life goes from there. Clear goals, confident, well-prepared students. That's the Common Core state standard.
Country Day School has begun using Common Core standards. Last year, 2012 and 2013, elementary school and middle school began with the math Common Core standards. Middle school was also implementing the English language arts standards. This year, we have high school math on board. Elementary school and high school have continued their work and implementation with English language arts. So you ask, why does this matter? The MAP test assess achievement and the growth laid out by the Common Core standards. So what the teacher is teaching, your child will be learning, and therefore the assessment tests what they've learned.
So why did we choose MAP? Well, the focus for MAP is student growth, not just a number or a percentage, it's how much they've grown. We can get the results right away. Teachers have them the night the test is given. It measures many different things and gives us a wide variety of reports for different audiences. But most of all, it's designed to help our teachers differentiate their instruction. So we're teaching your child where they are. But please remember that any assessment is just a snapshot of your child's performance on that day. Perhaps they had a fight with a friend before they took the test, or they didn't have a good night's sleep. All of these things are going to affect your child's performance. So we do many different kinds of assessments to make sure that we have a complete picture of who your child is and where they are in their learning. The scores are reported in two different ways. One is the percentile that we're used to seeing and that we probably look at first, especially as parents, which compares our child to students at the same grade level around the world. But the RIT score is the really important score on the MAP test. It's an achievement scale of where your child is in a particular place of education. It's accurate, it's equal interval, just like a yardstick or a meter stick, and it helps us to measure growth over time. And you will see in a few minutes how connected it is to the details of what your student's learning. This is the student progress report, which you received something similar to this about your child. First, look here. This yellow rectangle is the norm, the average score for students around the world who were taking this test at the same time and age as your child. The orange right here represents the average for CDS, and the blue indicates the student's score. This is super important over here. You can see that this student is very high, but we want them to grow even more. We don't want them to bask in their glory. So over there we have the blue and white bar is where we want them to be by the end of the year. And you can see these RIT scores here for the various tests the student has taken and the percentage range. And then also here is the Lexile range, which is the level of reading that your students are doing. Right here is a norm, and we have this on a website that you can access and that we'll show you at the end of the presentation. But you can look 235 right here, this RIT score, that's in reading. We go over here, we look for 235, and look, it's off the charts, literally off the charts. This child is reading above the 11th grade level. And the Lexile that I mentioned is connected here. You can see the bands, and these are new. We've just started using the Common Core standards. We've just started using these stretch Lexile bands. And so it will probably take a while for your child to reach that level. But you can see that there are levels for each band, and in the middle school, where these are from, the band is 925 to 1185 right here. And so this student is at the very high end, is actually reading at a much higher level. I've had some parents come in and ask questions about why their child has such low scores, and really there's a lot of reasons for that. It could just be low skills. It could also be that we're just starting to teach the Common Core standards. It could be, it could be that your child is an English language learner and they're working hard to gain mastery of English. It could be that they are learning disabled. We can't give any accommodations to learning disabled students on the reading test. We can give many on the other tests, but not on the reading test. And then we also had a lot of technical difficulties this time, and that could have caused some frustration for your child. And then we also have the problem of effort. How hard did the student try? Why does my child show negative growth? That's a very strong concern for some parents, and we are very concerned as teachers as well, and we're working toward ways to encourage students to do their very best all the time. But boys are twice as likely as girls to show negative growth. statistically speaking. Negative growth is twice as likely to show up in reading because it's such a long and difficult test than in math and language usage. I don't think I mentioned earlier that the MAP test is an adaptive test. And what that means is that if your child gets an answer correct, the next question is more difficult. If they get it wrong, the next question is easier. That means that every student taking the test is challenged at the utmost part of their ability level throughout the whole test, which is a real shock as for advanced students who are used to gliding through a lot of their testing. And it's more likely to show up on the fall test than the others, which is kind of not very anti-intuitive, is that the word? And then it increases with grade level, and the time of day the testing was done has a great effect.
So you might be wondering, how can I help my child improve? Well, what we know is that a greater focus on learning rather than grades and homework completion is what's needed. Learning about learning. What we're teaching and what the students are learning, that middle area, is where the magic happens.
2, you can use the Descartes. Your child's teacher can send you this or send this to your tutor, and here you see this is a list. Here's language usage. This is a section of language usage. If your child scored in this RIT score, this is where they're ready to learn. There's a 50% probability that they already know some of these things. They know 50% of them, but they need to learn the other 50%. This column is the column of what your child has most likely already learned. There's a 73% probability that they know that. And the right-hand column is where they'll go next. So you can work with your child on learning these things on the Descartes. Read more. This is such a given, but I've included some statistical information from a study that connects how many minutes of reading per day and how that relates to the percentile rank of standardized tests. And you can see the correlation is quite startling. Read more.
So a resource that's been put together for you is a Symbaloo, which is linked to your students' RIT scores. Here you'll see the address, click on it, and do some exploring.
This is the Symbaloo that was put together for teachers, parents, and students to work with the map. This section over here is the section that will concern you most of all. This is where your student can go to practice on and filling gaps in areas where they are low. For example, if you click on the math practice, your child could find under number and operation their RIT score. Click on that and they'll find a whole list of games that they can play to help them with that skill. And so this will help a lot. Another thing that will help on this page is that we have a lot of nonfiction reading up here. This is nonfiction listening, this is fiction reading, this is vocabulary work, and down here some storytelling. But these are not linked to the RIT scores, but they are places where students can practice skills in which they may be lacking. So this is Rachel Schakowsky and Susan Stevens bringing you a little information about MAP. Please feel free to contact us at any time for more detailed information or specific help understanding your child's report.